Hello again and welcome to another edition of Shed Talk, my weekly magazine video type series looking at the keeping, breeding and showing of cage birds, with a particular focus as usual on what we've got behind me at the moment, the exhibition style Budgerigar. And in this episode we're going to look at December in the shed. Can't believe December already. We're going to look at what's going on in both my sheds in December, so here in the Budgerigar shed, but also outside in the Finch and Fife shed out there, and look at just generally what we've got going on elsewhere in December. As usual, if you enjoy the videos, don't forget to hit the like button. Do of course comment on anything you see in the video. Thanks to all those people who commented on the new pair and have left a comment about which of the birds that we want to put together to replace the hen is in cage number 4, and that was in the last episode. If you haven't seen that episode, I will put a link across the top of the screen now, up there I believe. Go back and have a look at that. You may still have time to influence the outcome of that decision as to which of the two birds we're going to put together for, like I say, to replace the bird in pair 4. But thanks to all those people who've already commented on that particular episode. Don't forget, if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, then why not hit the subscribe button, and of course if you want early notifications, then do hit the bell. So what have we got for you in December in my shed? So we will start in here in the Budgerigar shed, and you'll be aware that we're right in the middle of breeding, so the main focus in here is going to be carrying on with the breeding. That's the main general focus. But of course, you will remember in the last episode we spoke a little bit about weaning, how we wean our birds, or how I wean the birds in my shed. And really December is about getting the birds that are the first round chicks weaned off the parents and into the nappy flight, or the young bird flight. So that really is the main focus. You can see here we've now got lots of chicks on the cage floor, so we've still got a couple of chicks left in cage number 1 that are on the floor. We've got some chicks, slightly younger chicks, in cage 2 that are also on the cage floor, and then in cage number 5 we've got so another couple of birds that are actually those two birds I think are perching at the moment, so are almost ready to, or virtually ready to move from there into the nappy flight or the nursery flight. So that's really what we're going to do, is about how it's going to be focusing on moving those birds and getting those birds moved across into the nursery flight. I have already moved 2 birds out of cage 1 and into the nursery flight, so we'll have a look at those very, very shortly. I'll just show you the 2 birds. We won't talk about them, that'll come in a future episode, but I'll just show you the 2 birds that we have already moved. But the remainder of those birds will be being weaned off of the parents and will be being moved across into the nursery flight throughout the month of December. So that's the first thing that will be going on in the Budgerigar flight. The other thing, of course, is that we will be splitting, or we might be splitting some pairs, and as I mentioned in the introduction, in the last episode we put up a couple of birds, or 4 birds, 2 cock birds and 2 hen birds, and asked you, the viewers of Shed Talk, to decide which cock bird should go with which hen. And like I say, I've already had quite a bit of feedback on that. So that new pair will be going into cage number 4 as soon as the hen in there has had a little bit of a rest from laying. I have actually removed all the eggs from that particular hen. In fact, she removed a couple of them herself. So all I need to do now, shut the nest box up and give that hen about a week to rest off, which does give you a chance to comment on which of the pairs you would like, or which of the 4 birds you would like to see paired up together. And I know, like I say, some of you have already commented. If you haven't had a chance, do go back and have a look at it, like I said earlier. There was some discussion around, within the comments, around some people have said that they would have put the sky blue with one of the birds, but they felt it was too close, being grandfather to granddaughter rather than the other one, which is uncle to niece. I would say, I've gone back and I've looked at the possible pairings. I've used my online database to look at both of those 2 possible pairings and looked at both the inbreeding coefficient and the closeness percentage, and in both cases they are virtually the same in terms of the total gene percentage, so that the outcome, the offspring of both those pairs, in terms of the gene percentage that one will have, it's actually less in terms of grandfather to granddaughter than uncle to niece, which is quite interesting. So although grandfather to granddaughter sounds closer than uncle to niece, actually they're virtually the same in terms of the inbreeding coefficient. So don't let that put you off in terms of the thinking about which of those pairs might be best. So with that in mind, so that's obviously what I said in terms of the other thing that is going on in this flight. So what else have we got going on in the month of December? Well, the other thing that's going on in December is we've got our last couple of shows. One of them has just gone by, and that was the Swindon Cage Bird Society annual show. A very enjoyable show, and I'll talk a bit more about that at the end of this video. The other show we've got to go to is the High Wycombe annual show, and that is at the end of the week. And then we've got a few birds still in the stock cage, a few of the Budgerigar still in the stock cage that we are taking to that show. I think those 2 shows are going to be my last shows of the season, although I may or may not be able to get out to the Welsh National, I think it is, which is middle towards the end of January. May or may not get out to that. I still need to wait and see. So we'll be taking the Budgerigars and of course a few Fifes to High Wycombe, as we did for the Swindon Cage Bird Society show. And like I say, there'll be more about that, the Swindon show, at the end of that episode. So like I say, Budgerigars and Fifes go into those 2 shows. Well, we're on the subject of the Fifes. Let's nip out to the outside flight and talk a little bit, though we haven't been out there for a little while, it is very, very cold out there, and talk a little bit about what's going on with the particularly the Fifes outside there in that particular shed. So here we are outside in a very, very chilly Finch and Fife shed. I must admit the weather's turned really, really cold of late. Hence the hood and the hat. So yeah, anyway, we haven't been out here for a little while, partly because it's just been, I suppose, pretty much the feeding out here for the last month or two. We've had the birds that we have taken to the show separated off in cages. We've decided, we've kept an eye on them, and I've decided which two I'm hoping to breed with next year, and perhaps we'll have a look at those in a future episode. Even though it is right at the beginning of December, for out here, December is where we start to think about next year, I suppose, in terms of starting to try and bring the birds into condition, although there are a number of canaries in here that are singing their heads off at the moment, so they obviously think it's spring already. Anyway, so the first thing that I've done is the timer is been set now, so we're starting to bring the lights on. You may notice the lights on here here at the moment. So I'm starting to bring the lights on. They're coming on at about 8:30 in the morning and going off at 3:30. So they're coming on, you know, after it starts to get light anyway, and before it starts to get dark. That gives them, I think, 7 hours. So 7 hours of daylight, and we're going to gradually increase that at about 15 to 30 minutes each week, until we're up to the full 14 hours at the beginning of April. So that's the first thing that we've done. The other thing in terms of thinking about next year's breeding is that I need to bring in a couple of more birds. What I don't want to really do, I could put son back to son back to mother and daughter back to father. I do have a cock and a hen that I want to breed with next year, but rather than breed that closely together, you know, from the very beginning, I'm going back to one of the people who supplied one of the initial birds, and hopefully I'm going to be able to pick up a buff hen and a buff cockbird. Both the two birds that I'm keeping are yellow, so I'm hoping to pick up a buff hen and a buff cockbird to pair to these next year, and we will have a look at those birds perhaps in the next episode, if thumbs up, I manage to pick those up. Anyway, as I say, really cold out here. Don't want to spend too long out here other than when I'm cleaning. So for the time being, that's it from the Finch and Fife shed, and we'll go back into the slightly warmer Budgerigar shed indoors. Well, it's good to be back here in the slightly warmer Budgerigar flight, and got a hot cup of coffee to warm me back up a little bit. It really is getting quite chilly out there. But as I understand it, it all helps to bring the fives into condition, so I won't put the heating on out there. Like I said when we were out there, hopefully in the next episode we will get a chance to look at a couple of new fives that we've got to make up our breeding pairs, or two breeding pairs for next year. So fingers crossed we will be picking those up, and we'll have a look at them in the next episode. The other thing that is going on in December is not really to do with the shed, but I did say I would do a couple of videos on, or a few videos on, how to use the ZooEasy database that I use to log my birds and to, you know, plan pairing and so on and so forth. So I'm hoping the first of those, or first couple of those, will come out at some time in December. So that's the other thing that you've got to look forward to in December. I said it at the time, and I'll repeat it here. I'm not going to publish those videos on the various Facebook groups. So if you want to see those videos, or be sure that you're going to get to see those videos, then of course do subscribe to the channel, and do hit the bell icon to get notification of when I release those particular videos. I said again at the earlier on in the episode that I went out to Swindon Cage Bird Society annual show. It was a really enjoyable little show, very great fun, thanks to all those who laid it on. Particularly, I think it was Tony Kimber who was the show secretary for that particular show, and thanks to everybody for making me feel welcome. A particular thank you to those people who came up to me and said that they enjoy watching Shed Talk, so you'll know who you are if you're out there watching this particular video. There were a few people who said that they found the videos interesting. There were a couple of people who are quite new to the hobby who said they found it useful in terms of understanding, particularly around the breeding of the Budgerigars. So again, thank you for those people for those very nice comments, and I hope you enjoy this particular episode. We will of course finish with a look at some of the birds that were at that particular show. How did I get on? Well, Budgies did okay. They didn't win any of the major awards, but they did okay. There was no intermediate section at that that particular show, so I was showing with the champion section, although in fairness there were no champions showing. There were just a number of intermediates and some novices, but I did okay. Birds, there were a couple of birds that did reasonably well in that champion novice rundown, but like I say, I didn't win any of the major awards. With the Fifes, I was really pleased. There was a class of 5 in one of them, and what I consider to be my best Fife came third in that rundown of 5, so I was quite pleased with how well that bird did. There were a couple of smaller sections which I think I got a first in one of those, with the bird that I think is my second favourite. But I was pleased with how that particular one compared with some of the other Fives that were out there. But I still got a long way to go with the Fives, and hopefully what we pick up this week will help me out with that in terms of the breeding. So all that's left for me to say before we have a look at those birds that were at the show is do stay safe and enjoy your birds.